Oh, 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 oh. What's up, chat? Thank God it's Friday, right? Thanks for the sub, Rusty Can. I appreciate the support. I didn't understand that your name was Rusty Can until I read it out loud. For some reason in my mind it was like Rusty Khan, like Genghis Khan. I think all the Khans in video games has ruined my mind for what K-A-N means. There's so many Khans or Khan adjacent names in Mortal Kombat, you know? Shao Kahn, something Khan. Young me thought spelling can with a K was the coolest thing. I mean, Mortal Kombat has been spelling every single C word with a K since the 90s, and they are not allowed to stop it because it's part of their brand now. There might be a part of the Mortal Kombat developers who are like, that might have been stupid, but they can't stop. I have also created a GameFAQs ID in probably like the year 2002 or something, so I could ask questions on the GameFAQs forums on how to beat Sonic Adventure or some shit. And at the time I was in my edgelord phase in which I was planning to become a popular Japanese mangaka that publishes a 50-volume series about demons fighting angels based on the Dante's Inferno or some shit like that. Thus I was in my maximum demonic edgelord headspace, and then I named myself BaalBud, and then instead of somehow using the opportunity when I started drawing pictures online to change my fucking handle name, I stuck to it, and now I'm stuck with a fucking edgelord name, and there's nothing I can do. May this be a lesson to everybody that when you're going to be changing your handle name, you should probably think about it if you have an opportunity. Once you're stuck with it, you're stuck with it. Sucks, don't it? I don't know. You have a name that implies you're hysteric, which I've been notified by my Victorian culture that all women are just one panic attack away from having the hysteria and fainting spells, so I assume it's more appropriate for you. Somebody get the smelling salts. We have a female here. I like this text. I can't talk and write at the same time. I have difficulty drawing and talking at the same time, but writing, lettering, and talking at the same time is a whole nother different level of me not being able to do two shits at the same time. Shitting I can do at the same time as other things, which is part of the problem. It's why I got hemorrhoids, because I was spending too much time reading isekai novels while shitting instead of actually doing my job. The truth is, no one cares what your name is as long as it's easy to read and rolls off your tongue. Well, I think your name, Manomania, fucking sucks. What are you gonna do now, bitch? Yeah. Not so, Shakespearean now, huh? What's in a name? A rose by any other name would be just as sweet. That's fine. This is a burner account. Yeah, you probably made it just so you could shitpost in this godforsaken chat room. More Mitsuda. Nice. This is top 50 JRPG town themes. Arnie from Chrono Cross. I don't know. I'm glad I don't live in a JRPG town because it might be nice for a while, but you just know that, like, when you're off taking, like, a lunch to the local swords master who lives at the top of the local mountain while you're away from the town, you just know that you're going to be able to see your hometown on fire from the top of the mountain, and then you're going to run back home, and then all your best friends and townspeople have been killed, and the orcs almost kill you too, but then Swordsmaster runs after you and kills the orcs and protects you, and now for the rest of your life you have to go on a journey to realize why your hometown was destroyed. One of your best friends will turn evil 2/3 of the game at least. Somebody has to betray. I don't think that's always a trope, but starting off in a relatively safe, nice location and then being forced to leave that nice location is almost always a trope. Because they always want to start slow. There's a few exceptions to this in the JRPG genre, but I would almost not even call it a JRPG if it doesn't start slow. That's kind of part of the appeal. I remember Lost Odyssey started with you in the middle of like a war zone and everything was like burning down. But on the other hand, the Lost Odyssey characters are literally immortal, so... Also, I'm sure some people remember Lost Odyssey fondly, but I don't think it's aged that well. I didn't finish it even at the time. Even when I was in my maximum, like, I'm gonna properly play video games phase of my life, so... How's it going? Your laptop fixed now? Yes, my laptop has been fixed, as we can tell if we run the MSI center right here. Yeah, both of the fans are on, but the CPU temperature is pretty damn low. Yeah, and it turns off very quickly. when I initially bought it, it would usually only have one fan on most of the time, and then like this year, suddenly both fans would start going on at like 4,000 plus RPM to keep the CPU below 90 degrees. So it's back to the normal mode. Free up memory now. It turns out that, yeah, getting your shit properly taken care of is important, I guess. So now you can no life Neo 3, nice. I'm pretty sure I can't play Neo 3 even with this CPU not overheating. I haven't tried it yet. I still have the demo installed because I was planning to use it as a benchmark to tell how well my computer was running before and after it got cleaned, but I was looking through some of the V threads on it, and they were saying that a lot of people were experiencing some CPU issues, so I'm not sure just having my thermal paste reapplied is going to be enough for me to run Neo 3. I'm definitely not going to be paying money for it if I'm going to be playing it on minimum settings on my laptop and pausing gameplay every 30 minutes to allow my laptop to cool down and stuff like that. That just sounds like a very non-fun way to play a really good game. I assume that I'll have to go back to America sooner than later at some point, considering my mother's still there, and she's probably going to foot the airfare at some point anyway. So when I do go back, I'll just make sure to grab my PS5 and like haul it back to Japan. I don't know. I can wait a few years. It's not like I haven't played Neo before. For those of you who haven't played the Neo 3 demo, it has moderate changes to the gameplay when compared to Neo 1 and 2, but I wouldn't consider it to be dramatically different to so much to the point that it's, you know, like you absolutely have to play it if you've already played the first two. Do you think of switching to a PC in the future? I'm just imagining him trying to balance a desktop on his hip. For those of you who don't know, I do not balance my laptop on my hip. I have it attached to my hip. And also I've been practicing drawing with the, what do you call it, the Clip Studio Paint window on my larger 4K monitor, my secondary monitor as well. And I've confirmed that, yes, I can actually draw while looking at the larger monitor. My hand-eye coordination is still pretty functional. So I can transition to a desktop at any point if I want to. So that is also an idea. If we're gonna be like actually considering that most of my income is reliant on me having a functional computer, it's probably good to have some sort of redundancy. Robustness is the term that we would use in the auto industry. I haven't played any Neo game. Are they worth getting into? I mean, I think there's only me and one other guy in this chat who constantly suck the dick of the Neo games, but whenever I have an opportunity to say that Neo is better than From Software games, I usually say so. You have to be white to give a fuck about Neo. The only other person who always is like, yeah, Neo is so good in this chat is a black guy, so... That's not true, actually. The black gamer slash anime nerd is, they deeply empathize with the samurai culture. So... there's a lot of overlap there. I will bait one code true. He'll come now that I said it. If we're going by pound for pound percentage of population, there's a way higher percentage of weebs among the black American male population than there is among the white American population. I'd say that the black weeb percentage, or at least even casual consumers of anime, is as probably high as 30 to 40%, whereas among white people it's probably around the 20% rate. Show them the Bakeneko lady. Oh, I have to delete the Shibari references I have. Hold on. Alright, she's called Kasha in this one. There is a, she has massive titties, it's important to remember. Cat. I forgot what the name of the blue demon one is. What was she called? No, not Oda's wife. Not this one. There's so many fuckable female demons in Neo. I can't even remember which one was called which. Wanting to have sex with horrible yokai is just, it's part of the package. You really have to push it in the From Software games to find women that you actually want to have sex with, demon or otherwise. Whereas the good thing about Team Ninja being the whole Dead or Alive team and all is that by default the women are fuckable. They aim to please in their character designs. Tate Eboshi? Yeah, I think that's it. Tate Eboshi is like peak. This doesn't look like a human, but I also want to stick my penis in it. Yeah, this is the one I was thinking about. This is from the DLC, right? I need to see the one where she's standing up so we can get the cleavage shot. That's a big girl right there. I didn't play any of the DLC. I have a general policy that I don't buy DLC for video games, even if it's games I really enjoy. I almost always regret playing DLC. Like, it's almost as if even if a game is, like, actually really good, I have even less reason to play the DLC. Like, Nioh 2 was a perfect game on its own, so I didn't really need any extra content. Like, it had such a good aftertaste in the way it ended, so I didn't really want to add anything to it. DLC is just a worse expansion pack. I mean, it's literally an expansion pack. We just have a different word for it. Good thing that shit was free in the complete edition LMAO. I ain't waiting for the complete edition. I remember that Nioh 2 went on sale exactly on the same day in which everybody in my office was forced to leave because the COVID hit. And I was like, cool. It's gaming time. Zero fucks given. Excellent timing, COVID-chan. Is working from home for the next 4 years. Oh shit, a My Fair Lady reference? Most people will not know. Not everyone is educated. This is both a My Fair Lady parody and a romantasy parody. When will the pandemic be over? It didn't even really begin in Japan. Basically, nothing had to shut down in Japan because Japanese people understood the concept of putting on face masks. Something that Americans claimed was, like, against their basic right as human beings. Whereas Japan was like, oh, we already wear face masks all the time. And then the pandemic was fully contained and very few people died and society functioned perfectly fine. PC cucks had to wait. I mean, it's pretty interesting how, I mean, Nioh 3 is being released at the same time as PC and, like, consoles now, right? At this point, most third-party Japanese video game companies, except for Vanillaware, I guess, are gonna give you your PC release. Something that was kind of unthinkable, even in the previous console generation. I'd still prefer to play it on console though. Just looking at, like, any kind of PC release, inevitably at least half of the questions in the first 2 or 3 threads are like people trying to do performance issue shit. Like, I have to turn off shaders, what is this? I have to go into, you know, the BIOS or whatever, and I'm just like, come on, man. I grew up in the era in which I had an N64, and if you were having performance issues, you pulled out the cassette and you blew on it. You rubbed your cock on the cassette and put it back in. Okay, Kona, my freedom to cough in buffets. East Asians already use masks for everything. The Japanese female fears going outside without her makeup, but now not even the makeup is enough. She has to have the full bottom half of her face covered for maximum attractiveness based on the male imagination instead of actually being able to see her face. Women in Japan literally refusing to take their masks off because it'll expose that they're not as attractive. Are you going to degen out now that Neo 3 is out? I'm probably not going to play Neo 3 until I have access to my PlayStation. This was the big question of whether I was going to bring my PS5 to Japan or not, and I came to the conclusion that if I was going to be serious about making a run at trying to become a professional mangaka, I wasn't going to bring a massive, heavy piece of video game equipment all the way to Japan just so I could play a game that I've already played twice. So I had actually gotten to the point where I was taking off the the fins, the outside panels of the PS5 to see how much suitcase space it would take up and how I would take it to Japan. And I think if the PS5 was like 30% smaller than it is, I would have probably taken it to Japan, but the PS5 is fucking massive, so woman walking around with sun-blocking long sleeves in the middle of the summer. Honestly, the way Japanese summers are right now, you probably shouldn't be walking around outside at all, even if you don't want to maintain your, beautiful white skin. We'll see how much outside time I get when we actually hit the hot summer months in Japan, but I'm going to try and avoid it as much as possible. I tan easily and I don't mind, but foundation is expensive. The truth is, the Japanese women are way more resilient to sun than white people are. They can just tan normally. They're filthy, brown-skinned rice paddy peasants. That's what they are. But they try very hard to pretend like they're Chinese concubines by, making sure that their skin is as light as possible by never letting any UV rays hit it. Ball should move to Misawa. Summer average temperatures are 60 to 70 Fahrenheit. There's a lot of places I can move to in Japan that are lower temperature during the summer, and I'm going to check a few of them out after I get my hemorrhoid fixed, maybe in March or so, and consider moving. I don't plan to be living in the current area I'm living in long term. The rent is a little too expensive, even though my aunt isn't charging much. And it's just like, not everybody gets an opportunity to live where they want to live. It's mostly determined by where your job is located, right? So I have a really nice opportunity to go around Japan and decide where I want to set up my new lifestyle. That a lot of other people never get to make that choice, so I figured I would do that. If you have wife and kids or anybody who has like a job at a specific location, then that's not the case. But if you're working online, you can go wherever you want. The vagrant lifestyle. The sweet spot is a place that isn't insanely hot during the summer, but also isn't insanely like covered in winter during the winter. So that would probably be on the Pacific side of the island. And maybe not too far up north. It can be on in the mountains. If it's high altitude, it will also be it will also be a lower temperature without getting too much snow if you're on the Pacific side of the mountain ranges. Live wherever in Japan, but you need to start eating raw eggs. This seems like the 4chan copy pasta, except the Japanese version, where instead of a bowl of, you know, a shit ton of eggs, you have to eat just the raw eggs. And no, I will not be eating the raw eggs. I will leave your apartment without eating all the eggs. I don't care what you say. I hope we're not living in a time in our society in which people don't know that you have to eat all the eggs reference. Do we have any Zoomers in chat who is like, what is he referring to? Because this is an important formative experience of everybody who was using the 4chans back in the day. No Apple Land. I've heard Aomori gets cold as hell. Yeah. If I go like full northern areas, I could get fucked up by the cold weather. Also, I have to make sure that it's not like too desolate an area, because then I need to get a car, and I definitely am not getting a Japanese driver's license, so if possible, I like to go without even getting a bicycle, although that might be difficult. The Aomori ramen is different. I don't eat ramen as much anymore, so that's okay. There's so many different local ramen varieties. I'm not gonna worry about that shit. I'm sure they have like Sapporo ramen in Aomori as well, instead of just Aomori ramen. I don't know about the eggs. I feel like I've repressed such memory. You have to eat all the eggs meme. Yeah, here we go. There is a Know Your Meme page about it. You have to eat all the eggs. You have to eat all the eggs is an exploitable image taken from a thread on 4chan's V board. It was from V. I didn't know it was from V. Since originating in mid-2012, it's been used as a redraw. Thread starts with a picture with a woman passed out on park bench with following green text. What to do? Offer her my coat. What does it say? Offer her my coat to cover up and a ride home. Help her up and carry her disoriented body to my place. Let her sleep on my bed as I sleep on the couch. Deal with her freak out when she wakes up. Ask her if she's okay. You don't have to tell me what happened, but you have to eat this as I hand her a bowl of eggs. Ask if she needs a ride home. Tell her to take care. Basically, a person who is Max Redditor wandered into the misogynist areas of 4chan by mistake. And they made fun of his complete inability to socialize with women, where he traps this poor female in his apartment and forces her to eat the eggs before she's allowed to leave. White Knight Gentleman is a completely socially inept. He thinks he's offering her hospitality when he gives you a gigantic bowl of eggs and he forces you to eat them. You don't want to spend thousands of dollars and hours to get the privilege of driving in Japan. Just as someone who's a pedestrian in Japan and being on the other side of like the drivers and seeing how the level of like wherewithal and just general courteousness that the drivers show toward pedestrians makes me not want to be a driver. Like, I'm jogging every day, so when I get to a cross section, like, the fucking drivers, they'll stop even if you're like 10 seconds away from the cross section, and I'm like, holy shit, just go. But it's faster for me to just run across the cross section instead of like doing the, you know, wave them and they still don't go shit like that. But if I was a driver, I'd be like, fuck this, bro. I mean, I'm not waiting like 20 seconds for this like old lady to cross the fucking crosswalk. I can't fucking deal with that shit. So the temptation for me to be a bad driver in Japan would be too high. I'm a good driver by American standards, but Japan holds their driving manners to a much, much higher standard than America, and it would be too stressful for me. I'd rather be on the pedestrian side of that shit. What if the woman is actually Gaston in disguise? Well, if we're going by the Gaston song, she would be the size of a barge, so I would probably notice. God, imagine female Gaston. It would be like this, right? She has the fucking black ponytail. Black ponytail. And blue eyes. Something like this, right? She'd have to have the massive chin, unfortunately. Female Gaston. The question is, how do you make her look hot while still giving her huge muscles and a chin? And every inch of her body is covered in hair. Femboy triplets following her everywhere. Femboy triplets always like, tee-hee! No one sucks like Gaston. No one fucks like Gaston. No one cheats and makes cucks like Gaston. You could say I'm intimidating. As men, we have a type. And the type is massive woman. And she has like, doesn't he have like a blunderbuss? I can't remember. And then followed by like the kawaii loli. being like, gee, Gaston-chan, I'm sure not a lesbian for you. Teehee. I sure love it when you beat me up and choke me in a non-homosexual manner. Does that mean the beast is female too? Yes. And just like male beast, it's a massive downgrade when she turns back into a human female. Conventionally attractive human female instead of giant hairy female anthro furry. Would Femme Gaston have hairy tits? I would probably just give her hairy pits. The places where females are allowed to be ridiculously hairy and still get a large amount of male fans among specific corners of the internet is the pit coomers, of course. Right? Thick, black, hairy. Make sure you have all the clouds. The clouds of moisture coming out of the female pits. This is part 1. And then, of course, part 2 is, you know... In fact, if you go to the hentai and they have pubic hair, it's actually pretty rare for them to not have the armpit hair. They usually are just a combo. There's a few artists who have pubes but no armpit hair. But in general, the people who want the pubes also want the pit hair. They can't help themselves. She's French, so yes. The Euros shave way less than probably any other culture. But again, they're European, so they have deeply sick psychological issues. At least female Gaston refuses to read Minotaur smut or really anything. True. Male Belle is like, oh hey Gaston, would you like to read some of this romantasy? This is a story I think you'd like very much. It's about a normal girl who gets kidnapped by the fairy king. And Gaston would be like, what is this, a book? As she throws it into the trash. Gaston doesn't need feminine concepts like time, place, thing. She doesn't need any setup to get herself going. She just goes directly for the massage wand and just jams it against her massive clitoris. What a Giga Chad. No time for reading, only coming here. Can confirm I have deep psychological issues. I do shave often though. I tried shaving my pits once, and I learned the hard way that I have like the super spiky black Asian Goku hair, not only on my head, but on my, like, you know, pits as well. And the chafing was so insanely painful. I was like, oh my god, I've made a horrible mistake. What have I done? You laugh, but how will you get somebody to match your freak if you can't talk to her about romantasy? I don't know if there's any woman that I can't talk to about romantasy in 2026. It seems like pretty much every female, if they haven't actually read the full series of the Fairy Fucker trilogy or whatever, they at least know about it. I don't think there's... You'd have to be like trying purposefully to avoid that shit. If you have any kind of like female social connections in the modern day, you have some sort of knowledge about book talk, I assume. Saying that, like, what if she doesn't read romantasy is kind of being like, but what if your boyfriend doesn't watch porn? They all watch porn, or at least they're knowledgeable about porn to some degree. That doesn't mean they're all, like, you know, gooning all day, non-stop, but we all know who Sasha Grey is, even if we don't jack off to her content, you know what I mean? I haven't read the Court of Thorns books, but you probably know what vaguely happens in them, even if you haven't read a single, like, summary of it. Let me guess. The Court of Thorns is about a normal female who finds herself wrapped up in the dealings of the magical kingdom of a hot fairy boys. Fairy Bad Boy 1 wants to have sex with her, but this angers Fairy Bad Boy 2, who also wants to have sex with her. Also, sex happens. I think I got this right. I started a court of, what was it, something, and a court of thorns and roses. Is that the R? I can't remember what the R stands for. Sasha Grey, the streamer, friend of Hassan. It seems like everybody's a friend of Hassan at this point. I don't know why Sasha Grey achieved such famousness. I feel like she was a pretty standard porn star. I guess she had a slightly different look than, like, the mega bimbo look, and that she didn't have gigantic bolted-on tits. So maybe at that time that was more of a novelty, and people found it refreshing or something. I don't know. I don't understand why she was able to sort of, like, achieve notoriety greater than, like, all the other porn stars of the time. Sasha Grey was one of the most recognized American apparel models. Oh, I didn't know that she was able to get other modeling gigs besides the porn. Vice magazines, when they had print. Does Vice magazine even exist at this point? Hassan is a hot piece of meat. He probably pays when going out because of his Turkish macho upbringing. Considering how much streaming money he takes in, I fucking hope he pays. He better have money. Those dog collars aren't cheap. Wait, no, that's Fourth Wing, not Court of Thorns. Whatever, same thing. I would say we need to go back to classic romantasy. Get our Jane Austen back, but that would imply that Jane Austen has ever stopped being relevant my entire life, and it never has. There's always some kind of new Jane Austen remake coming out at any single point in time, so... I feel like there's more Jane Austen remake movies than there's, like, Shakespeare remake movies. We're always just like one step away from Pride and Prejudice remake number 12. She really had the whole kind of female who reads this shit self-insert character energy down very strongly at a super early age. Every female thinks that they're the smart MC, where it's like all the other girls care about romance, but I'm too smart and special for that. And of course it ends with them getting the hottest, coolest guy who appreciates them for being smarter and cooler than the other girls despite not caring about romance. Maybe we should do that for male media as well. What if we write male stories where we start with the MC being like, all the other men, they care about getting their dick wet and sticking their penis in vagina, but I'm too witty and smart and intelligent to be caring about females. And then like hot female shows up and he's like, oh, he doesn't care about the vagina. That makes him so smart. In general, most male teen stuff, or even romance stuff, there's a admission that the guy wants to stick his penis in the vagina very badly. Actually, I have to look up My Fair Lady dresses to see what she's wearing. You do have issues there. It's something about the internet connection. Did the stream cut out? Or is it just a chat? Because if it's just a chat, that would be weird, but We forgive and love you. I do not forgive you. Also, I don't forgive myself for forgetting to save the fucking drawing I was doing earlier this morning. Just your chat, not for us. Just the chat. That's so weird. Because I couldn't load a bunch of website pages. I was trying to look up references for My Fair Lady, and they weren't showing up either, so... God forgives, BaalBud does not. Yeah. Only God forgives, guys. I should probably change the internet service provider, but I plan on moving anyways, so... If that's the case, it feels like a bunch of extra work. He didn't forgive the people of Sodom and Gomorrah. Funniest shit I've ever seen. To be fair, Old Testament God mostly didn't forgive anything. Old Testament God was literally like, when he was being merciful, it would be like, Abraham, you must sacrifice your only son. And then when he was about to stab his son, he was like, no, I changed my mind, LMAO, because I'm merciful. You don't have to kill your son for me. And then the ancient Jews were like, oh, God's so great. He didn't force me to murder my own son. He was just fucking with me to test my faith. What a great God. I sure like worshipping this guy instead of any of the other Mesopotamian demonic deities that everybody else worships. My God is so much better. He isn't like the Sumerian, goat god. Instead, he's way more merciful and better. God was a troll. South Park was talking about this as well, but the silliest god troll was the tale of Job. I can't remember specifically the full extent of the damage Job got inflicted, but... The story of Job... Job is a wealthy, God-fearing man with a comfortable life and large family. God discusses Job's piety with a character called the adversary, i.e. Satan. The adversary rebukes God, stating that Job would turn away from God if he were to lose everything within his possession. God decides to test that theory by allowing the adversary to inflict pain on Job. Job is tested through extreme suffering, including the loss of his wealth, children, and health, yet he maintains his piety while challenging the justice of God. Job defends himself against the unsympathetic friends whom God admonishes. The dialogue explores human frailty and the inaccessibility of divine wisdom, culminating in God highlighting his omnipotence and Job confessing his limited understanding. Job's fortunes and family are restored in the epilogue. Is it Job? I'd rather call him Job because, he's jobbing. Job got his entire family killed. LMAO. It's okay, he got a new one. I mean, don't worry, it's just women. We can always just get new women. It's funny because even in the original Old Testament, they were kind of aware of the full limitations of the concept of having a omnipotent, all-powerful God, because it always comes down to the question of like, how do you explain why horrible shit is happening to me if you have an all-powerful God? And in this case, they're going to be like, it's just because God is fucking with you. See, in the Old Testament, there isn't any contradiction, because the contradiction is, if God is all loving and all powerful, why does he allow bad shit to happen to people? But in the Old Testament, they never really claim that Yahweh is, you know, a loving God at all. In fact, he's purposefully states that he's jealous. He's a jealous asshole. So people would be like, "Oh, it's just our, you know, it's just our God being mean. We have to deal with it and find a new wife after everybody has died." And people were kind of okay with it. But then when we get into the New Testament, suddenly we have this weird contradiction, because we have to be like, no, God loves you. And then it becomes inexplicable why, you know, horrible shit would happen to you, because if he's, you know, so powerful and he loves you, why would he let that happen? So then all these Christians have to like twist their balls into a pretzel trying to figure out and explain why that makes sense, and it never does. The dude who offered his daughters in place of the sexy angels to the uncontrollably horny townspeople that he later fucked them to repopulate Earth. Yes, that is Lot. Job is more of like a one-shot parable story. Lot, on the other hand, was more involved in like the general formation of Israeli bloodlines. Also, he got raped by his daughter. People being like, he engaged in incest with his daughter. It was his daughter that got him drunk. Because his daughters are like, no, we gotta repopulate. Time to fuck daddy. Let's get him drunk. Dude literally got date raped by his own daughters. Many such cases in the Old Testament. The Jewish females were like that. Imagine running a train on your dad. I mean, it's not that much of a train. It's only two of them. If we're being realistic, if he's probably so drunk that he can't recognize he's fucking his own daughter, his dick probably isn't standing up. But on the other hand, he was an old dude, so... Even in modern day, if a woman gets a guy drunk, it's still considered his fault in many places. Just don't drink alcohol, guys. It's bad for you. Whiskey dick is also a thing. If you want to have sex, you probably shouldn't be drinking in the first place. I don't want to... For women, I don't want to be like, you're asking for it, but, if you are getting blackout drunk, you are kind of asking for it. Not even just like rape. It's just like any amount of bad shit can happen to you if you're ingesting so much alcohol that you are completely knocked out. Like your wallet can get stolen. Your kidneys could get stolen. You could try and climb into the local DoorDash driver, such as myself, instead of going into your sorority house like you're supposed to. I don't know how some people actively seek getting blackout drunk. Some people are more or less adverse to risk than myself. So they do shit like, you know, drinking the water when they go on their India trip and also getting blackout drunk at the sorority house party or whatever and expecting everything will be totally fine. I mean, if you're getting blackout drunk, you could just straight up die from alcohol poisoning as well. That's always an option. Generally zero self-preservation instincts. Back in the day, people had lower self-preservation instincts because there was no point in being too precious about yourself because you could just die from getting like any kind of scratch before we had antibiotics. So people were just like, I'll just drink whiskey until I die of cirrhosis. What's the worst that can happen? The worst that can happen is that you die of cirrhosis, so... Back in the day, dying of liver cirrhosis was probably one of the better ways to go, so... I feel like you only need to get that drunk once to know it's not a good idea, and yet so many people continue to get drunk even after experiencing the hangovers from the day afterward. I'm a dude who is careful about taking late night walks in secluded parks, yet I see women put on headphones and do night runs alone, LMAO. They probably have a higher chance of doing that and getting hit by a car than getting attacked by like a rapist murderer, if we're gonna be honest. Around here in Japan, people are so just like completely out of it in terms of their personal security because the crime rate is so low that we go far way beyond just the crime rate. People just like walk around staring at their phone, looking down at their phone while they walk on the sidewalk. And I'm just like, bro, I'm gonna bump into you if I don't move to the side. And it's mostly women who are doing this. I always thought it was just like the incels on the Japanese internet complaining about it, but yeah, it's way worse for women. I haven't seen any of the guys been doing it, but I've had multiple women just like walking straight forward with their phone with zero awareness of any of their surroundings. And I'm like, damn. If I just kept on walking straight forward, I'd bump into her. People who black out are just not tracking their consumption or drinking while taking medication that has an adverse reaction. I can't black out. I get to the puking stage way earlier after like half a drink. I've gotten even weaker to alcohol than I used to. Never have I ever game. I once said, never have I ever knowingly gotten someone inebriated in order to take advantage of them sexually and then left the party. A surprisingly large amount of guys raised their hands like I thought they would lie. They probably thought it was fine. And in fact, it was fine because they did not get expelled or go to jail, I guess. That's why I'm a bit skeptical of women having to be constantly afraid of their surroundings. I'm sure that they have to think about it, but it feels like many are so rarely exposed to genuine danger that they don't even take the most basic precautions. Women who claim that they have to be constantly vigilant because if they're not, like some male boogeyman is going to pop out of the bushes at night and immediately start murdering them, are just looking for virtue signaling points on Twitter. The vast majority of women, including probably those women who are complaining about shit, are not constantly vigilant. In fact, if they actually were expecting rape murderers to pop out of nowhere and have to defend themselves, there's many easy ways in which they could defend themselves from bodily harm. Just by carrying a weapon at all times, for example. Men are not like super magic superheroes. If you stab them with a sharp object, they tend to die. Some of these women probably just have anxiety. Probably, but being like, I have anxiety about the dangers of living in real world, and then complaining on Twitter about how the real world should change to make me feel safer, when there's always going to be like psychotic, sexual predators, no matter how much complaining you do, is a very stupid. And I have to agree with the Japanese incel complainers regarding this, that it shows like a fundamental level of like expecting people to take care of you instead of being forced to take care of yourself. I'm not really one who should be talking about this shit, considering I haven't really had to take care of myself for most of my life in the first place, but there is a kind of like softness to the modern, I don't know, Twitter complaining female. Like, you think that a woman in the 1850s was going to be complaining about how she might get mutilated by a bear as she's working on a homestead in the middle of Montana? No. She understood there was always the risk of being killed by horrible shit out in the world. She wasn't like, do something about it, man. I grew up in a murder capital, being mugged and threatened at gunpoint. Sometimes you have to be vigilant. Yeah, the question is always like, how vigilant do you want to be? It's like, do you want to be like, I'm armed? You want to be like, here's the money. You can take the money, and if you try and take any more. I think that would be my strategy if I had to live in like really bad areas, would be like, have some cash so it feels like the mugger is getting something out of it, but also be armed so that like if they want to take more than like some amount of cash, they have to know that like they're gonna get in a knife fight with you. That, and she'd probably shoot the bear if she had the ability to do so. Yeah. I mean, I hate to be the NRA supporter, but if you are truly so threatened by men, you should be carrying. And I don't want to hear about how my male superpower as a man can stop the bullets and stuff. If you shoot us, we're gonna die. The truth is, both men and women need to be careful in areas that can be dangerous. It's not just areas that can be dangerous. Again, the people around here are walking around without even looking ahead of themselves because they're looking at their fucking phone. You can get run over at any point. Every car is a potential death threat. You should always be aware of your surroundings. When I jog and I'm listening to podcasts, I have one earbud in, but it's only one earbud. I have my other ear open, and I don't use any noise canceling, so I'm fully aware of the sounds around me. That or do what one woman I know did, start laughing maniacally. I've heard that if you puke, a lot of times men will freak out and go away. Puking and shitting and stuff. I've jokingly said in this stream before that if you want to intimidate people, you should just try shitting and then like throwing your shit at people and then people will run away. You know, the monkey strategy, but I think it legitimately works for like rapists and stuff, is just shit yourself. Of course, not everybody is powerful enough to just start shitting in their pants on command, so it's usually not that easy. Another harmful thing that comes with coddling women is not properly educating them about self-defense. I grew up with so many women that generally believe that men and women are just as strong if trained and that they can take on an attacker in a fight. Oh, that kicking in the balls is a smart strategy, LMAO. Men know that their testicles are vulnerable, women. We know when you're going to try and kick us in the testicles. The truth is, most people don't know how to fight barehanded, male or female, as we saw recently by the MAGA guy who tried to pick a fight with like a 15-year-old and got his ass beat by a bunch of other teenagers. Or any NBA fight. NBA players can't fight for shit. Which is why it's important to have tools. Human beings were not meant to do things without tools. Our hands are not meant as blunt instruments. They're meant to hold objects. So in other words, always have a knife or something. Just stab people. This Final Fantasy 9, I can't remember. Yeah, this is the Black Mage Village. Miru versus Mizkif lawsuit. I only know about Mizkif as the guy who says loud things. And then people are like, haha, he was loud, that's funny. I don't know who Amiro is at all. I don't have time in my life to know about the problems of streamers. I'm too busy for that shit. He was loud and punched walls to scare her wabbits. Is that the lawsuit? Is that he was punching walls? That's pretty weak. Amira is another e-girl streamer. She's been assaulted at TwitchCon twice. I don't know why people go to TwitchCon. It just seems like a place where you go to get fucked by the Twitch administrators who don't create a proper foam pit and fill it with like half an inch of foam, and you end up breaking your spine. And if that doesn't happen, instead you get assaulted or something instead. You said she assaulted him with plushies. Oh no, not the plushies. I hope he's doing okay. Didn't Dr. Disrespect also have his cheating allegations from TwitchCon? I can't remember. Was that a TwitchCon affair, or was it something else? In general, if most of your socialization and fan base and money making occurs on the internet, going out into the real world and meeting all these internet spurgs in real life is only going to result in tragedy. There's a reason why these people socialize online. E3, rest in peace, E3. Now instead we have stupid fucking game awards. Everything is worse, isn't it? We don't even have, like, fucking expos anymore. We should have a Ball Buddy meetup event XD. No, we will not have a Ball Buddy meetup event. If I see any of you fuckers within 5 feet of my house, I'm gonna assault you. Except there'd be no way for me to know, besides the fact that you're probably like a white person. You'd be like some multinational foreigner in Japan. But there's a lot of foreigners in Japan now, so it'd be hard for me to identify. They're mostly Southeast Asians though, so if I saw some like weird Norwegian guy, I'd probably assume it's a viewer. TGAs and Summer Game Fest don't compare. I mean, even if we still had E3, it wouldn't be the same. The whole point of E3 was there was all these new games coming out, and you needed an opportunity to know about it and get excited for it. And now we don't have a lot of new games coming out. And even if we learn about it, a lot of them are mostly the same shit, so we can't get excited. We know it's you, though. Just look for Grumpy Nick Cage, LOL. I was lying. I'm actually a 6'8" black guy. Instead of Nick Cage, I look like LaDainian Tomlinson. He's not bald anymore. I have hair. I don't know what Nick Cage is doing. I was never bald. I was always shaving, guys. It's different. Meet BB at the Muscle Woman Cafe. I will not be going to the Muscle Woman Cafe. I don't want to talk to women and pay for the drinks or whatever. It's crazy how many variations Japan has of these girls' bar shit, where it's like You go here and then you buy watered down alcohol and then you get to talk to a female and pay for their drinks or whatever for an extremely high price. If anything, you'd think that personally I would pay money so I don't have to talk to women. That's a good way to extract money from me, is get a woman to talk to me and then be like, she'll stop talking to you if you pay her this extra money. I'd be like, you got it. That's a deal. Especially if this was like some sort of area where I couldn't leave, like when I was on a plane or something. Female who tries to make small talk with you as you desperately try to convey to her that you do not want to be speaking to her. BB is the male protagonist of the male romantasy manga who's too interested in making manga to care about women and sex. Unfortunately, the person who's making small talk with you is not going to provide you with sex. She is also probably not very attractive. But even if she was, I probably wouldn't be that interested. Attractive women don't really have to be very interesting. That's one of the benefits about being attractive. People will pretend to listen to you even if you're not saying anything particularly interesting because they want to stick their penis in your vagina. A plane? What about some trains or automobiles instead? Well, the good thing about Japan is that people don't try and make small talk unless you're trapped in a taxi with like some Osaka taxi cab driver who wants to talk about the Hanshin Tigers or something like that. Kansai people are known to be more chatty than like Tokyo, but in general, you don't have to make much small talk. You say that, but as soon as a tan tomboy Onesan showed any interest in you, you'd instantly ragdoll. I wouldn't ragdoll if I know that I have to pay her like 7,000 yen because I'm at a Muscle Girl cafe, dumbass. Taxi Oji-san? Well, when you go to Osaka, whatever, and want to make small talk with the taxi driver Oji-san, you should do that. I'm sure they need the business. Despite all the tourists in Japan, I don't think they're using much taxis. I hear that the Chinese tourists in particular are bad because they have like their whole system set up where Chinese people run all this stuff. Like Chinese, like they have their own taxi services that they use for like bus tours and shit like that. And none of the money goes to the local Japanese people is what I've heard, so... The taxi Oji-san, I think they need your support. You can do what that guy did and pay an escort to play Yu-Gi-Oh with him. Yeah, I don't want to play Yu-Gi-Oh! And I definitely don't want to pay for an escort. I'm just too damn cheap. Baal sounds like the kind of guy who's going to stumble into having an epic romance with a nice lady. I don't think that's going to happen because I don't leave my room, but it might. Who knows? Epic romances are shit that happens like out of nowhere, so... It wouldn't be epic if it didn't start with like random female falling from the sky. Of course, if it was up to me and random female fell from the sky, I would probably be like, what the fuck? I'm getting away from this bitch. I ain't catching her. In Laputa, if main character Kun didn't catch girl falling from sky the way he did, she would have dropped into that fucking mine shaft. Because the floating stone, it deactivated right around when she was, like, before she hit the ground, so... The rain in Spain stays mainly in the plain. Do not forget to capitalize the S in Spain. I had all of it capitalized to indicate some kind of, like, word play, but then I uncapitalize everything. Sexy OL editor Onesan won't stop hanging out my apartment. That I would be unironically annoyed by. I wouldn't even be like, haha, I'm annoyed, but there's a cute girl hanging at my apartment. I'd be like, please get the fuck out of my apartment. Like, my private space is, it is not available for you to enter, no matter how sexy you are. That Fubuki hanging out at Saitama's apartment. Fubuki is unironically annoying if you're just trying to live your life. A bitch that shows up in her car with her tits popping out like that. Like, it doesn't matter how sexy you are. Nobody, like, wants their living space to be invaded like that. What about Janos? I mean, in the case of One Punch Man, it's just for comedic shit. I wouldn't want Janos hanging out around me either. It's actually shocking how little Fujoshi content there is of One Punch Man. You'd think there'd be like triple the amount. But despite Saitama and Janos being pretty obviously a gay couple, let me look up e-hentai and see how many doujins there are. So if I go to from the top of One Punch Man hentai, we have at the top we have a Mogudan Tatsumaki doujin where she has gigantic, massive, huge tits in the standard Mogudan style. I didn't know that he drew characters other than gigantic, fat Ayanami Rei, but I guess he's capable of drawing stuff besides Ayanami. We also have gigantic Fubuki tits. Yeah, I'm not seeing any gay content so far, even on the entire first page. It's all straight heterosexual men who want to have sex with big titty Fubuki. Not a single gay doujin yet. Oh, finally. After going through about 50 different ones, I finally got into one gay doujin. With, I guess, Uke Genos. Yeah, but it's almost all heterosexual content. One Punch Man is too male. It's like the anti-JoJo. One Punch Man doesn't have enough gay baiting characters, and the ones they do are too gay. The Fujoshi don't want openly gay characters. They want attractive male. I will draw it right now. Average male relationship as drawn by a Fujoshi, how she thinks men interact with each other. We have attractive boy 1 and then other attractive boy 2. And attractive boy 1 is like, hey dumbass, stop being best friends with me. And attractive boy 2 is like, heh heh, what are you talking about, Shingo-chan? We're best buds, right? Which is why we're gonna be attaching our bodies directly to each other. Yeah. Look, guys. Look at these two sports players. These basketball players. Look at how they are interacting with each other. You can clearly tell that they are gay. And it's basically impossible to have any kind of sports manga in 2026 without relying on these people as your primary readers. Unfortunately, there isn't any just like, you know, fat, ugly bastard sports manga anymore. It all has to be ikemen, thin, macho body type. With guys just having these weird body language in close proximity to each other. Sumo sports manga bros. There was a sumo sports manga recently, and the main character was not a big fat fuck. That's the key to sumo manga, is that sumo doesn't actually have weight classes, so you don't have to be a super fat fuck. You just draw them as relatively thin, because there are thin sumo wrestlers, actually. There's a few. And then they start to gain weight, because if you want to compete at the highest level, you need to gain weight. But if this is just like a sumo manga about high school or university level sumo, then it's actually not even unrealistic for the sumo wrestlers to be somewhat underweight. It takes a lot of time for you to build muscle, but it also takes quite a bit of time for you to put on the amount of fat that you have to put on if you want to be at the Makuuchi Rikishi level of weight. Gaining like 100 kilos is no joke. Bada skill issue Keikona. I mean, Americans train their entire life so that they can become obese. But the Japanese have to start once they enter their sumo training phase, so they're not ready to be that fat. The funny thing is that when there were American sumo wrestlers, namely the few Hawaiians, they were insanely giga fat, thus proving once again that the American power is just being extremely overweight. They were capable of gaining way more weight than the Japanese wrestlers were. They were strong just by like being insanely overweight, I'm gonna be honest. They didn't have a lot of skills. That's the Tongan genes at play though. For those of you who don't know who I'm talking about, it was probably like Konishiki was probably the biggest one. Konishiki. Sumo highlights. Let's see if he does anything besides just being fatter than people. Look at that. Excuse me. Both of them got injured, of course. He lost, though. The fat guy lost. I mean, that's of course why... Oh, this is the Hawaiian versus Hawaiian here, right here. Good luck trying to move these fuckers. I want to suck his titties. There's a current Rikishi called Kotozakura that I've seen multiple Westerners say they like him because he has 4 titties. The powerful quad titty build that it's very hard to achieve this body type. Woman, are you even trying? How can you truly satisfy your man if you don't have the double titty build? Yes, sexy puffy nipples. Whoa, terms of service. Is it bad to expose male nipples at this point? I can't remember if we had that, what happened to the conversation where women kept on trying to take their clothes off for stream on Twitch. And then we got this discussion of men being like, why, or I guess the females were like, why can men expose nipples when women cannot expose nipples? Nipples are not sexual organ. And then Twitch is like, okay, nobody can expose their nipples. They don't make milk, so automatically not lewd. Well, we're currently at 1 hour and 46 minutes on this stream, and now we have to talk about male preg again, because she said that male nipples don't make milk. Well, if there's one thing I know from my gay dojins, it's that if you milk the male titties hard enough, they can make milk. When I was in Kyoto recently, I saw a white gaijin sumo wrestler on TV. If you were watching the news, I assume you saw Awonishiki, who is a Ukrainian sumo wrestler who has been in the news because he'll probably make Yokozuna this year. He's one of the fastest rising sumo wrestlers in history. But he's super skilled because he was doing Greco-Roman wrestling before he entered the sumo. So he has really good lower body balance, and he's been dominating pretty hard. According to the stupid school dress codes of the 2000s, shoulders make all men and boys horny. I don't know. In the 2000s, my school didn't have dress codes, and the women were all wearing low-cut jeans so I could see their thongs at all times. I saw every girl's thongs every day, so I knew like which colors and stuff they preferred. It was just like, yeah, you're just gonna have to look at this chick's underwear every day. Every day I get to look at your underwear. I guess that's just the way it's gonna be. Male breasts can make milk under very specific conditions. Don't they make milk if you just suck on them enough? I can't remember if that was true or not. That was the dress of the time. We must respect their culture. The 2000s teens, they have their own dress code and culture. We must not try and take away their unique cultural aspects through our cultural imperialism. Do not colonize the 2,000-year-olds. It's a specific hormone that produces milk. But doesn't it, can't we release that hormone if we suck on the milk titties long enough? Our gym teacher was like that too. I used to think she wanted us to see everything. My middle school gym teacher was so morbidly obese that she was teaching softball one day and a softball rolled to her feet and she was so fat she couldn't bend over and pick it up. And I was just like, God damn, that's such an American moment when your teacher is just like morbidly obese and she's trying to teach you PE. This country is fucking doomed. Unsure, women start producing it as a result of being pregnant, and it usually lasts for a few months. I know this because in the hentai I checked yesterday, as soon as the penis came inside her, a separate image, a cutaway of the egg being fertilized by sperm showed up at the side of the panel, and then her nipples immediately started squirting milk. I know this is how the female body works, so I happen to be a specialist on this subject, thanks to the many pages of hentai I've consumed. Wet nurses in the past did it without being pregnant, for instance. Is that true? I assume that like everybody in the past was just like pregnant all the time though, because they had to be constantly having children who were dying of polio nonstop. The boobologist. Yes. As long as you can have milk and continue breastfeeding, you can reactivate lactation. You should be like, no babe, I'm just trying to reactivate your lactation. We need to do this to make sure you're constantly milking. I need to suck on your titties for reasons. As long as you milk, you will produce milk. What if I force the female to wear a bikini with cow print on it, and then have her wear fake horns and a bell and a tag on her ear, and then call her a fat titty dairy cow? You Holstein cow, you. You know there's at least one guy out there who actually does that? I mean, they sell the bikinis on the Japanese internet. Shikara bikini. It's mostly hentai anime stuff. But there's a few females who are wearing it, like actual females. I don't know. I think there's not enough Japanese models with the massive cow print, the massive cow tits to really make the cow print work. Here's one, I guess, but her boobs are relatively normal sized. I'm not impressed. I don't think she can feed me with this amount of milk. You must lactate harder, female. It's not enough. Around month 4, it drops off because the body figures out how much the baby actually needs. So what that means is that I have to aggressively suck on the breast milk to convince her body that she needs to feed me. Lingerie doesn't do it for me anymore. I need reassuring emotional support instead. Typical man in 2026, unfortunately. Every guy nowadays is like, oh, I need her to tell me I'm a good boy. Personally, whenever I see a female's underwear in my hentai and the underwear is white instead of black, I get unhappy. I only want black underwear. Black underwear with garter belts and lace. What if it's emotionally supportive lingerie? Yeah. First, you have the woman perform cock and ball torture on you, and then you get her to wear the emotionally supportive lingerie to make you feel better after the cock and ball torture. Typical man with his unrealistic expectations. Men want one thing, and it's disgusting. Actually, it is kind of disgusting because it's often said that men just want like an extension of their mother in like the woman they marry. So if you combine that with the whole like I want reassuring emotional support, it really does sort of go back to like men just want to continue to be babied by their mommy no matter how old they become. And as a result, that is kind of like, I could understand if as a woman you'd be like, God damn it, I'm not your mom. But your husband is like, no, no, you still need to be my mommy. What if your mother was never motherly? That makes you even more hungry for the delicious taste of mommy milkies. Just like how a female who grows up without a significant father figure might start asking you to, you know, choke them daddy or whatever. The male equivalent is the same, where we need our non-existent mother figure to be covered by our future wives or something, I don't know. What do women want? Al Pacino? This is where I should do an Al Pacino imitation, but I don't really have the energy to do it right now. Women want a rich guy or a bad boy. It's a tale as old as time. The especially damaged women might also want a stand-in for their non-existent father or something, if they didn't get a proper father figure. It depends how much baggage they have. The best is a bad boy rich guy who is also incredibly sensitive and also is a father figure. Which in romantasy you have a lot of. I do not want to be with someone who yells at me while I'm playing soccer. How will you become a better player if I don't motivate you by telling you that you're playing like shit? It's the only way you can ever improve. Alright, guys. I am not making any progress on this drawing when I am streaming. I think I've kind of like figured something out, but I don't think I can still draw on stream. See you around, guys. Good night. Have a nice boy. Hey, blah, 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 boys. See ya. Good night. Goodbye.